Everybody is here and ready to rock and roll, Mr. Chris. Did you enjoy the listing presentation call yesterday, Chris?
Yeah, it was awesome, Ben. You did a great job.
You did a great job.
Thank
We
you.
did a great job yesterday, Chris. Before we get started, as we're kind of warming up and talking to everybody, I want to make a couple of comments and thoughts about the presentation. Because Chris and I had this call last night, we talked about it a little bit. When you sit down with somebody and you spend time getting to know them and talking about their goals and their home, and that is probably 60 or 70% of the process. By doing that, you'll have asked them questions about what's most important to them, and you can tailor the listing presentation to their actual needs. And Chris and I talked a little bit about the presentation, which I think maybe, Chris, you're opening up. But there is a couple pages that matter. Like number one, it's about you, the first page. Then number two, what sets our company apart. But Chris, what you just pointed out, I think was page 10, page 7 and 8. This is the majority of your presentation. What are the 8 things that are going to determine if a property will or will not sell, or how much it'll actually sell for? And based on what they say to you, you can spend more time in this. We went through every single page yesterday to give you dialogues and to think about it, because for some people, you're going to have to. When you work a lot with your sphere or people that are already committed to working with you, this is probably going to be your listing presentation, Chris. And I'll redo the listing presentation for everybody real quick. And you walk in, you show them this, you already sent it to them. You simply ask them the question, Chris, is there anything other than price you'd like to discuss before we get started with the paperwork? Is there anything other than price you would like to discuss before we get started with the paperwork? If they say no, you put the guide down, you get the listing agreement out, you have them sign on the bottom, and you figure out the price. That's your listing presentation. But this was built for one big difference. I didn't have a big list of friends and family and sphere or 30 years in the business when I started of people that called me that wanted to list. Every listing appointment I went on, Chris, it was a competitive situation because I called a canceled, expired, or a FSBO. In that situation, they were interviewing 2, 3, or 4 agents. They were comparing what I do to what the competition does. That's why this presentation is so focused on what we do for them. Now, if all I had was sphere, or people were calling me and they really wanted my expertise on price and they were committed to working with me, that would change the presentation. But in order to do all forms of presentations, you have to master and memorize this first, and then you can adapt it, change it, or speed it up. I hope that makes sense to everybody. Anything I missed on that comment, Chris?
No, I think the important thing is to not get so focused on the word presentation that we think we're there to present. It's called the selling experience. And so it's important that the majority of our time, as Ben said, is in the getting to know them, what they're looking for, what they need. And there are pages in this book that you may not even touch or open to on certain appointments. Now, I guarantee you, if we do enough appointments, we're going to end up on an appointment where we need to know every single one of these pages. Like, that person is going to want us to present every single thing that we do, and we have you covered. That's why yesterday we went through every page. But, as Ben and I talked last night, I would gauge that audience. I'd get to know them. I'd end up on page 7 and 8, go through what we believe are the 8 things that will help someone's home sell, and ask them what's most important to talk about that day. And it may just be negotiation. It may just be, marketing. It may just be communication. It probably isn't all of them. So what we don't want is everybody saying, hey, this is awesome. I'm going to watch that video 700 times. I'm going to say everything that they said. I'm going to go in and present just like that, and then wonder why your conversion ratio isn't at 80 or 85 or 90%. It has everything to do with the questions you're going to ask on page 1. And one of the things that we're going to do is put together a list of questions as well to go along with the presentation as we do the training, such that we get incredibly skilled at asking the right questions to get them to open up, and then we can direct the conversation and that experience in a better way.
Yeah. Jelaine just made a good comment in chat. If you want to talk to the entire group, make sure that when you're sending your message, you hit the drop down where it says to send to all panelists and attendees. If you want just Chris and myself to see it, you're going to send to panelists. So as you share good ahas, share it with everybody. If you have a private question, just send it to one of us, the panelists, and we'll see that. In all those presentations, you're going to take notes because you're going to be having a conversation and asking questions. The notes are going to be valuable. It's going to allow you to follow back up and tie things down and to close at the ending. If you were to see me do my listing presentation with a single piece of paper and a Sharpie, it would actually sound just like the guide we went through yesterday. I could get it done in 10 or 15 minutes, but I would cover the 4 reasons why we're truly different, on why they should think about hiring us. And I would cover the 8 things that has to happen for them to sell their home for the most amount of money. And when I got to marketing, I would cover the pie chart of market to agents, market online, and traditional marketing. And I would add some additional things about international marketing and our negotiations and communications and the fact that we might already have buyers. I would follow that process. But the only way that I can do that listing presentation with a blank piece of paper and a Sharpie is because I've memorized it and I've become a master of it, like so many of you have. So today we're going to be working through what Chris and I named the buyer experience. And we're going to go through 3 tools today. So all of you, I want you to download this. If you have an iPhone, there's going to be an Android version soon. I apologize. If you have an iPhone, I want you to go and I want you to search the store, the App Store, for BKCO Mortgage Calculator. And if you don't download the app that says calculator, you're going to have a problem because there's 2 different apps in there. I want you to download the BKCO Mortgage Calculator app, because this is going to help us with our buyer consults. This is in beta. It's not ready for you to submit your clients to yet. And but it's a tool that you can use today, especially if you have an iPhone. We'll get the Android one out this soon, and we're going to change it over to Place Branding. It's going to look like this. Inside the app, you're going to have, in the future, the ability for people to get pre-approved right there, for people to apply for their refinance. And there's a bunch of calculators in there called the mortgage calculator and the value of home ownership calculator, which we're going to spend some time today talking about. And there's a savings calculator that shows them how much money they would save if they worked with our mortgage company compared to working with any other agent, et cetera. And on the More button, there's some places where you're going to be able to refer your clients. It'll get sent to the loan officer of your choice. And we're going to be able to see that they've been communicated with, timely, that the leads are being worked. And we're going to just blow away the mortgage experience. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to download this. And then for the rest of today, you're going to pay attention to Chris and I, because we're going to dive into the other 2 tools you're going to have. You should be receiving digital copies and physical copies as they get delivered, but digital copies today of 2 different pieces of the buyer presentation. One is the buyer consult. The buyer consult is a vertical piece that you're going to keep with you forever. You own that. You don't give it away. You don't hand it to people to fill out. This is your tool. And then the buyer experience. It's beautiful. It's horizontal. It's just like the listing pres. This is what you give to the customer. This is what you present to them with, and this is what they walk away with. There's 2 different pieces. So today we're going to talk through that together. And I'll start, Chris, I guess. I'm just going to share the first piece, the vertical piece, and talk about why this is important. So,
one of the things, as you bring that up, I'll share is oftentimes what you see on your screen today, the consult piece, could be done before you ever sit down with them face to face. This consult oftentimes happens over the phone, or at least a lot of this information gets put together over the phone, through email, if you're texting back and forth, like what they're looking for. If the instance comes up where the first time you're actually meeting and sitting and talking to this buyer is that Zoom consult, or is the in-person across the table consult, it'll show up on about page 5 and 6 of the buying experience. So if I'm in person, I'm at the office, I'm going to have both copies. I'm going to have the buying experience, which is, let's call that a presentation, and I'm going to have the buyer consult, which is the majority of my FaceTime with them, talking about, right? Well, it's about them and what they're looking for and what their needs are. But Ben will take you now through what the consult looks like, so we can get used to using that, whether it be over the phone, on Zoom, or in person.
Yeah, if you are a Ben Kinney team OG, original gangster, Chris, then, and you've been with us for a really long time, there was a point in time where we talked about yellow sheets and green sheets. And all these really were is this workbook that we're going to show you that walk through the different pieces of information that I wanted to remember to ask a buyer or a seller. Now, why do we call it green sheets and yellow sheets? Because early in my career, when I was on the phone, I wanted to grab the right one, because one for seller is different, the one for buyer is different. So I color coded them, and we just printed them on yellow paper, and we printed the other ones on green paper. And I say, Jolene, I got a seller on the phone. Give me a yellow sheet. The buyer one was a green sheet. Historically. Now it's beautiful. Thank you to our design team and marketing people. So this is the green sheet of the future. What I said and what Chris mentioned was I would have that green sheet in front of me from the very first time that I got them on the phone talking. And here's the reason. As I go through this guide, the very first page is buyer information. I might get an internet lead inside Brivity where all I have is their phone number, their email address, and I get a hold of them. And I might say, hey, Chris, thanks for registering on my website. Are you currently looking for a property to invest in or buy? And you're like, yeah, actually I am. Awesome, Chris. I didn't get your last name. So Chris says, oh, it's Suarez. So I write down that under second buyer name, right? Or under last name. Chris, are you buying this property by yourself, or is there to be somebody else on it? Well, Chris says, well, I'm going to have my wife in there. Awesome, Chris. What's her name? And I write her name down. I just filled out the two pieces. Chris, I called you on this phone number 425-766. Just out of curiosity, is that the best number to reach you? Chris says, yeah, actually it is. Great. Is this your cell phone? And he says, yeah. And I put a little check by it, because then now I know I can text them. Is there any other phone numbers that if we ever need anything, right? And you can fill that in. Chris, I want to email you a little bit of information about our company or our business. What's the best email to reach you at? And I fill that out. As you walk through this, you're starting to fill out these different boxes. I might get Chris on the phone. And he says, you know what? Honestly, I don't have a ton of time for these questions. I just have a question about a property. I would pause this conversation and say, great, what's the property that you're interested in? And Chris, I'm looking for 1234 Main Street. Okay, I'm going to log into my computer. I'm going to get it pulled up. Give me a second. As the computer's warming up, we can either sit here in silence, or I can ask you a couple of questions. Are you from the area, Chris, or are you relocating? And he says, oh, I'm from the area. Awesome. Where do you live now? And he says, Bellingham. So I start typing in current address, Bellingham, Washington. That's awesome, Chris. Do you own your home currently, or are you renting? Well, I own it. Are you considering selling it prior to moving? And I'm starting to fill in these boxes. Now, we're going to fill in a bunch through email and text and calling. And over time, as you fill out these boxes, once you've filled it all out, it's an actual client, because you've answered all the questions. Now, this is formatted in what we call LP Mama. LP Mama, once you get past the original first page of the buyer information sheet, is simple. Location. Hey, what area are you currently looking in, Chris? If you were to buy, where would it be? 2, price. Have you figured out a payment that you're hoping to stick with? Or are you paying cash? What price range are you considering? Between $300,000 and $400,000. That's awesome. Is there an area specifically, right? Motivation. And you ask the questions. How soon are you thinking about buying, Chris? When do you need to be in your new home? Is there like a drop dead date? Just out of curiosity, Chris, why are you moving? Do you own now, or do you rent? That's awesome. Would you need to sell it? And it just walks me through the conversations so that I can ask the right questions. As we go to the next page, it continues. We get down to agents. Hey, are you currently working with an agent, or you've been out looking at any homes with any other agents? Awesome. That's great. Have you signed some sort of a loyalty agreement? Are you still interviewing the best agent for your home purchase? Mortgage. Chris, would you be getting a mortgage? Home criteria. This is what you would use to fill out the listing alerts. If you're going to enter them into Brivity, you would need to fill this information out, right? You might be able to fill in some of it by just going into Brivity and seeing what properties they looked at and what average price they have and how many bedrooms they're clicking on and what neighborhoods or areas. You could fill out a lot of this information. And then the last piece is appointments. When can we get together? Now, if you're already in front of them, that's a kind of a little obvious. You're doing the buyer consult. Your final closing appointment question might be, would you like to go look at homes today? I picked out 3 to 5 that I consider the best price properties and the best match to your criteria. Or would you like to schedule a time later this week to do our first property tour? This walks you through what Chris and I are calling the consult, the questions. It's about them, getting to know them, their goals, etc. What did I miss on that, Chris?
No, I mean, ultimately it's that needs analysis, right? The on that page that's in front of your screen, I think two of the most important questions for them to really open up, you to understand what they're looking for, and them to hear us care about their needs are at the top left-hand corner. What do you like about your current home? What don't you like about your current home, right? Why are they changing? If they like something about it and we're replacing it, well, great. That gives us some tangible, tangible action items for us to go and look. I, at the end of this, will often say, as I take notes, I will probably bring this with me when we go to show you homes, so I can remind myself, but also remind you what's important to you when we find the right home. And this is a great recheck, right? Right now, especially, we have buyers in the car, right? And they're in the car and they're in the car and they're in the car. And I mean, if they've been out with you 5, 6, 7, 9 times, the issue is we probably didn't consult properly, or we've all forgotten everything we wrote down during the consult. So having this booklet now that will be their booklet with everything that's important to them will help us in our day-to-day job as well.
And think about how important LP Mama is to your ability to do your job and provide the most amazing buying experience. If you don't know what location they're looking in, you can't find them homes. You can't show them homes. You can't even set up their listing alerts. If you don't know what price range they're looking in, you can't, right? They can't get pre-approved. It doesn't work. You can't pick out homes to show them. You can't set up the listing alert. If you don't know what their motivation is, you don't know if you should be working with them now or following up with them later. I've had agents that spend months and months showing buyers that have no intention of buying. They just like driving around with you because they think you're cute, right? You need to think about, is this person a hot and ready person? Is this the best person that I should be working with? Are they motivated? If they are motivated, what you need to know is, are they already working with an agent? You ever gone out and somebody says, hey, I want to see this house. I saw your for sale sign in front of it. You drive out there and say, great, I love it. I'm going to call my agent and write an offer. And you're like, why didn't I ask this question? And do they already have an agent? You just wasted a lot of time and energy, right? If you fall to LP Mama, you would have known that mortgage, if they do find a property they're interested in, they're not going to be able to make an offer in this competitive environment unless they have a pre-approval letter. By the time they get that done, they could potentially miss out on a great opportunity. So it's important you have this conversation. What are they looking for is going to help you tailor the home search, so you don't show them 30 homes. You just show them 5 of the best homes, and you go back to them and simply say, on average, our customers only look at 3 to 5 homes before they make an offer. There's 2 reasons. One, inventory is super low and there's not a lot of choices. But the big reason is I started off with 300. I narrowed it down to 20 or 30 that you got sent by in your listing alert, so that I'm going to show you today. We narrowed it down from there to 5 that you could see yourself living in. We're going to look at the best 5 and high 5. Most likely 80% of the time, our clients in this market write an offer on one of those 5. If you don't find the right property, we'll go out again tomorrow and we'll look at the next 5 until we find the right property. At the very end of the book, it goes over our promise. It's our goal, Chris, to create an experience so good that you can't imagine it being any better. That everything we do and the technology we use are designed around delivering on our promises. And it kind of walks through our promise. And then on the next page is the loyalty agreement. We're asking them to be loyal to us. And we're telling them how we're going to be loyal to them. The first 8 are what we're going to do. The last 5 is very simple. All we're asking from you, the client, is to do these 5 things. When you get through this book, you're going to sign the bottom of this agent signature. You're going to ask your buyer or buyers to sign it, and you're going to keep it. But in the book that Chris is going to go through, there's a copy of the same agreement that you're going to sign and they're going to sign, but they're going to keep. Why we go through this signature is for simple. We want to ensure that you had the conversation with your people about what you offer, what services you provide, and what your expectations are to them in exchange for all the hard work that you do. For example, Chris, if you and I were to work together and I was to work really hard to help you find a home, one of the things that you're agreeing to is you're going to get pre-approved or provide proof of funds prior to us going out and looking at homes. Number 2, anytime you see any property that you would like to view, whether it's a for sale by owner, a home that's currently on the market, or just a home you drove by in a neighborhood that you would really like, or some builder, you're going to reach out to us and let us know about it. And if you talk to anybody else, you're going to let them know that you're working with us. I'll give you a bunch of extra cards. You just hand it to them and you high five and they'll leave you alone. 4, you understand that there's things that we're hired for and we're great at, but we're not a tax advisor, an attorney, a lender, home inspector, et cetera. We're going to refer you to the best people we can think of and encourage you to get your expertise from people that specialize in that. We're only going to give you advice in the areas that we're experts on, that we're legally allowed to. And we're entering into an agreement today that we're going to work together. That's it. We're just going to be loyal to each other. That's all we do. This is the console, Chris, and this will set the stage after spending 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, or 40 minutes going through this. Then you're going to walk through the buyer experience, which just explains how real estate works and how it's going to work working with Place.
Yeah, the one thing I would add around that loyalty agreement is the way that it's designed and set up. You'll notice that all of our commitments are there first. In fact, there's more of them. And so at a certain point in time in our industry, people got really leery or afraid to ask a buyer for a commitment. And yet we do it with sellers every single day. And that loyalty agreement is easy to present if we show them what we are willing to commit to. And so as I'm wrapping up that conversation with the buyer, I know that conversation is about me deciding whether or not I can actually meet their expectations as well. And I'm just open with them. I also want them to feel that I'm excited about helping them at that moment in time as well. So I'll just tell them, hey, I make sure that before I commit to working with you as a buyer, that I can meet your expectations. I make sure that I can devote the right amount of time that it's going to take, that I can find you the house that we've just dreamed up together. And I want you to know that I'm going to be working right in front of the scenes with you, alongside of you, but also behind the scenes. It's going to take loyalty on my part and commitment on my part. And I'm willing to sign this saying, I've listened to you and I can help you. And the minute I do that, then I'll sign it before I even go through what I'm asking them to be loyal to me about or around as well. And so I love actually, Ben's design truly around me signing one and them signing one, me leaving with one and them leaving with one completely signed as well. One, it's legal, we have to do that. But 2, it actually enforces a relationship of going down this journey or this experience together of buying that home. And actually, then as I begin to share here now, what you'll see is it's going to walk them through and cement everything that we talk about in the buying experience. So in front of you, hopefully you'll have it, and we'll walk through it together. Is this buying experience? As Ben mentioned, what we want is for this to feel consultative. We want them to believe that the time that they spent with us helped them understand the process before they began the process. The biggest issue, if we go back to NAR, just like we did yesterday around sellers, the biggest issue that buyers have with their agent is there were a few things. One they didn't feel that their agent helped them find a home. Well, guess what? Right? That's page 9 of the workbook. They didn't feel that the agent communicated well. Well, we're going to talk about communication in the process. And they didn't feel the third thing that NAR said was they didn't understand what was happening at the end of the transaction, right? Something happened at the end where it got messy. Well, we've broken that down for them to understand each piece. So page 1 looks a lot like our seller book as well, doesn't it? It's about you. So I would start the conversation, and I would just let Ben know this is gonna coincide with the letter that's on the right hand side of that page as well, if you're in your workbook. But I would say, Ben, I'm thrilled that we're able to set aside some time together. We got together today, and that's largely because 20 years ago, when I decided to get into the real estate industry, is because I believe that home ownership was not just the American dream, Ben. It's a path to building real wealth. So I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to sit down with you and talk to you about how this could bring you down that path of wealth. Today, I want you to know it's about you. It's about your dream of home ownership. It's about what you need. It's about any questions you might have about the home buying process. And it's also about the timelines that you want to meet around buying this home and finding your next home. Now, when we both understand that, we'll be able to get on the path of building your wealth. Page 2 in your workbook is going to be a letter that talks about wealth building. And again, they can read that on their own. Everything that I just said is sort of outlined in that letter as well. And then I'm going to bring them to this page. Now, this page is that app that Ben mentioned earlier. And I'm going to share with them openly. You know, a recent U.S. Census study reported that the average U.S. renter, now that's 35% of all Americans, right? 36% of Americans rent right now. The average renter has a net worth of just over $5,000, while the average homeowner has a net worth of over $230,000. Now, which side of the page do you want to be on? I'm committed to making that happen. Like that is why I'm in this industry. That is why we're sitting down together. The dream of homeownership benefits on page 4 of this workbook is a way for us to write out for them exactly what that app will do. So for instance, let's imagine that you're wanting to buy. Ben, you know, we talked on the phone briefly, and as I'm looking at my notes around what you said, your goal is to buy a home around $400,000. Is that right?
Absolutely.
Now, you're going to be putting down about 10%. You've saved well, by the way, looking at the average American and saving up $400,000 or saving up $40,000. So you have about 10% down. The national appreciation rate historically is about 4%, Ben, 4% a year, right? You're going to buy an asset, and every single year, that asset typically will go up 4%. Now, the good news is here in Portland or here in Bellingham or here in Austin, the good news is we've been averaging about 6 or 7%. But let's go with national average. Let's figure out what the benefit of homeownership is based on just the national appreciation rate of about 4% a year consistently. Now, your annual appreciation is about $16,000. At the end of the year, your home will be worth $16,000 more than it was when you bought it. Let's look at your principal payments. You'll be making payments on that home. You'll have a mortgage of about $360,000, right? $400,000 home you hope to buy. You're going to put $40,000 down. You'll have a mortgage of about $360,000. Now, you'll more than likely choose a mortgage of 30 years, right? A 30-year mortgage. Let's assume, I'm not going to be aggressive, but let's assume your interest rate will be 3.75%, right? 3.75% interest. You'll pay about $6,620 towards your principal, right? The majority of your money, your monthly payment is going to go to interest the first year and the second year and the third year, but you're still writing some down on that principal. In other words, you're putting money down towards the cost of your home. $6,620 will go towards principal. That's your principal paid year one. So we have $16,000 of annual appreciation, and we have $6,620 going towards your principal. Now, the good news is there's a tax benefit of owning a home as well. Many renters don't realize that, but you'll be able to deduct or write off the interest you pay on your mortgage this year. So no one loves to pay interest. However, it's a tax deduction. So over the course of the year, that'll equate to about $3,213 of tax savings this year. Now, here's the deal, guys. You can either write that out and calculate it if you're a math whiz, or you go to your calculator that Ben just talked about. You click on calculator. There's a box that says the value of home ownership, and you'll click on calculate the value. Calculate the value of home ownership, and it'll bring you through these numbers so that at the end of those questions on that app, you'll fill in annual appreciation, you'll fill in principal paid year one, you'll fill in the tax benefits. In this case, if I was doing it by hand, you'll gain about $16,000 in appreciation, $6,600 in paying down your principal, and the tax savings would be about $3,213. A total value of home ownership of almost $26,000. So do you see why the renter's net worth is under $5,000 and the homeowner's net worth is over $200,000 in just the first year? In fact, we started talking a year ago. If we had bought a year ago, your net worth by just making the home purchase would be about $26,000 minimum just from owning the home. Ben, any other thoughts about that page or those 2 pages using the app and writing it out?
Well, I hired a team of software developers to build a mortgage app that would calculate the value of home ownership, because I think that this is such an important piece of talking to people. If I only had one piece of paper to go out and do a buyer consult for my friends or people I grew up with, or my neighbor's kids, or to do a first-time home buyer class or at an open house, I'd have this one page. And I'd simply say, Chris, would it be worth 5 or 10 minutes of your time if I could show you how owning a home would increase your net worth by over $25,000 in the next 12 months? Would 5 minutes be worth $25,000 to you? I don't know what your hourly rate is, but I would do that, right? And you're starting this conversation. The first piece, appreciation, we gave you the words to use. Real estate has appreciated at an average of 4% nationally for the last 30 years. This is a national appreciation rate. So in our area, it's this, and this is what you would need to go figure out by looking at your MLS or doing your own research. And then that is just wealth. That is money that they earn for literally doing nothing, that if they don't own a home, their landlord is making that because the landlord owns the home. The principal payments, Chris, a phrase that I like to use for that, this is for savings. You're paying down your mortgage, which increases your equity, which increases your net worth. It forces you to save money. Now, you have 2 choices in living the life that you're living. One, you could pay down your landlord's mortgage and help him save money, or you could pay down your mortgage and you could save money. Which would you rather do? Now, lastly, tax benefits. The government wants us to own homes. They want families to have properties. They want us to own real estate, and they give us tax incentives to do that because they know it improves schools and all these other benefits, right? So they give us some benefits. So that is $3,000 less in taxes that you potentially would have to pay next year if you don't own a home. That's money in your pocket that you get to keep, Chris, that you could use to invest in your next house. And that total amount is really massive. So when you're done with the call today and you have an iPhone, I want you to go to the value of home ownership calculator, and I want you to click calculate value. I want you to click get started, and you're going to see that you only have to do a few things. 1, pick the price. 2, select how much down payment they told you. It defaults to a 30-year loan term, which is what most people have. Select the interest rate. It defaults at 3.75, probably right in the ballpark of today. Pick your appreciation for your market, and then pick the annual income of what the borrowers make. So if there's 2 borrowers, right, it would be the total income the 2 partners make or the spouses make together. You pick how much they make, that defaults the tax rate. And all you have to do is click view results, and it walks you through each one of these steps. Where previous to this, you had to get a calculator and write stuff out, and you had to do math. And I know I lost a lot of y'all at math. That's where I got lost myself. It takes it away. This is a magic calculator. It's going to make deals come in, buyers convert, people write offers. This calculator is going to make you rich, I promise.
One of the important pieces on this page is the home purchase process is obviously an emotional process. The number one reason why people buy homes, and it's an interesting one, it's just truly to own their own home. Like that's the only reason. Like they just have this innate desire to put down roots and own their own home. And yet by doing that, what Ben just went through is there are three ways to make money. One, by sleeping, right? You make money in your sleep while the value of your asset continues to go up. Two is you are forced to put money in a savings account, as Ben phrases it, forced savings. I am forced to save to stay current on my mortgage. And the third one is the government is giving you back money. What's interesting about this, that one demonstration I used of a $400,000 loan, right? It was $270 a month. That is $270 that would have just gone to taxes regardless. Like their income stays the same. They're writing $270 checks every month to the government instead of it going back to them in forced savings. And so there are three different ways that they're going to build their net worth by owning real estate. It's appreciation, principal payments, and tax benefits.
When you're done doing this presentation, or when you're done helping them buy their first home, you could bring this page back up that you hand filled in with a Sharpie and said, remember that you said you were going to buy a $400,000 home and we found one and it would appreciate by this month. You walked all through all these things. Congratulations. You're going to make $25,000 potentially this year just in these three areas. But I want to tell you another secret. If you want to add a fourth area, it's you never sell this home. You rent it out and you buy your next one. So maybe at some point in the future, we could get together and talk about investing in real estate and how in 2 or 3 years, you could potentially rent this one out and buy your next one. And there's this fourth area, right, called rental income, where people are going to pay off your mortgage for you, right? And they're going to give you extra money every month for you to live or to pay down the amount of your next house. Anyway, keep going, Chris.
So let's talk about the process. We believe that there are three main steps in the process of putting on the path of building wealth through home ownership and giving you that dream of home ownership. The first one is really what we're doing. We're getting started, right? We're going to talk about how do I get started on that path. Second, we're going to talk about, well, I found a home. Now what? Like I found a home, I wrote an offer. What's that process of offer to closing? And what we found is by putting in a little time now up front to talk about what to expect, there won't be hidden surprises. So that's going to be one of the most important parts of our conversation today, from offer to closing. And the third step is mission accomplished. Like what happens? Like the money is transferred. What happens when I get my keys? What should I be aware of? This third phase is the closing day when we accomplish our mission. As we jump in, I want to talk about what you need. And now this is where, if we haven't done the needs analysis, we would, right? I want to talk to them about home ownership, the benefits of home ownership. And now I'm going to talk about what they're looking for. This is the needs analysis. I've done it already. Then I'm just going to go and highlight my three commitments, right? We have a few goals and promises we make to every client to whom we make this commitment. Number one, I want to make sure the dream of home ownership winds up being one of the best decisions of your life and the best purchases of your life. My second commitment, my second goal is to help you find the perfect house for you at the best possible price, right? Negotiating price and terms matter. You make your money when you buy. I'm going to make a promise to help you make a good decision, right? That's my second commitment to you. And my third commitment is I promise to have clear and consistent, right? Constant communication throughout the whole process so that we're always on the same page while we go through this path or down this path of home ownership. Now, let's talk about your goals. And then you'd open up the consult book if you hadn't done that already. Anything else there on that needs analysis page, Ben?
No, the only thing that I would do is if I took the time to do the consult correctly and I got to this page, I would just say, hey, let's just slow down for a second. I want to reiterate my goals and my commitments. 1, 2, 3. And then I want to reiterate what I think I heard you say. And I'd probably take my Sharpie out And I'd say, number one of the goals that you said was you wanted to get your kids into a better school district. And I'd write that out, better school district for kids. Number two, you wanted to start building wealth, right, by owning real estate, building wealth by owning real estate. Number three, you want an extra bedroom, right? Because you have a kid on the way and it's just, you need to work from home now and you need an extra bedroom for a home office. I want to have an extra home office. Now, the fourth thing you said is you don't want your kids to play in the street because that's dangerous, right? And you care about them. So what we want to do is we want to find a great place for your kids to play that's safe, maybe with a fenced backyard is one of the things you mentioned. Did I miss anything? And you go back to what you've already stated and you physically write it out so they see that you were listening and they see that you acknowledge what the goals of the transaction are. And it's a really important process. So don't skip over it.
It's a good moment in time as well to use the word expectations. Oftentimes, I had countless buyer consults where I felt early on they left with completely impossible expectations, right? Like you get excited, you write down everything that they want, and then they leave, and you think there's no way in the world I'm going to ever find that house. And so I felt setting expectations up front is critically important. And at that moment, as they write down goal number 1, 2, 3, and 4, we have to make sure it doesn't turn into a list of 6 and 7 and 8. There are no lines for 6, 7, 8, and 9. Like, it doesn't mean that they don't want other things, but what we want to get clear is what is most important. A script that I often use is this. 3 of the main things that anybody talks about when buying a home: it's price, it's location, right, and it's home. It's the actual house. In fact, our consult is built around that, right? Those letters show up in LP Mama. It's that price, it's that location and the home. Now we're in an interesting market, Ben, and I want to make a guarantee that, and a promise that I'm going to look for something that fits all 3 of those perfectly. That's my promise. My guarantee, however, is I know I can get you 2 out of 3. So if one of those, price, location, or the actual home, wasn't as important than the other, which one is it? And let me illustrate that. See, I know I can find you the perfect home in the perfect location. It may just not be the perfect price, right? It may not be the price that you want if it's the perfect house in the perfect location. I also know I can find you the perfect home at the perfect price. It just may not be in the right location. Like, if the house is most important, right, and the price is most important, it may be a little bit farther away from town. I also know I can find the perfect location, and it could be the right price. It just may not be the perfect house. It may be a little bit smaller. It may be missing a bedroom. The kitchen may not be remodeled. You may have to move a wall. So if you had to give up one of those, price, location, or something inside that house, which would it be? What's most important? And what happens in that conversation is it sets the expectation that there's no such thing as a perfect house. Otherwise, you'll show 40 houses before they realize there's no such thing as a perfect house. At this moment, when they write down their goals, it's a great time to have an expectation conversation and some guarantee conversations.
The nice thing with that, Chris, is that you can revisit this at different points of the transaction, like when you're negotiating and the husband or wife is really stubborn and say, well, we're not going to come up $5,000, right? And we've already got the sellers to come down 20,000, whatever it might be. You simply go and say, hey, that's awesome. I understand. And if this isn't the right house, it's not the right house, but I thought you guys loved it. Let's revisit the goals that you told me. Number 1, you wanted to be in the right school district. This one checks that box. Number 2, right, you wanted a fenced backyard so your kids don't play in the street. This checks that box. Number 3, you wanted a room for a home office. It checks that box. Now, none of your top goals said $5,000 or a specific price. So I just got to ask you a question. Is your kids playing in the street, your kids going to the wrong school district, and you having to work in the kitchen while everybody's climbing on top of you, worth $5,000 or not? Mm-hmm. I didn't think so. Let's find a way to make this one work.
Yeah.
Right? Because you're going to make $25,000 this year just buying the home. All right.
right?
So,
So let's talk about that, right? That's step one, which was getting started. One of the most important things that we need to do is secure financing. And securing financing isn't just about choosing the right lender, right? If you're not paying cash, the next step in the buying process is decide which lender and loan program to use. Having a written pre-approval letter is key in this market to getting your competing offer accepted. So there are 4 parts to that. The first part, and this is going to be the hardest part, right? This is the part that you're not going to love because it's going to feel uncomfortable. It's collect and require documentation. You're going to need to gather 2 years of tax returns, recent pay stubs, any asset statements like 401ks, 2 months of bank statements for all borrowers, right? In order to receive that approval. All of those have to be collected in advance. So it's a good thing to start doing that now. The second step in this process is reviewing loan programs, right? Loan programs vary based on location and condition of the property. So really sitting down and having that consult, just like we're having with your lender, is going to be important. So hey, we're going to look at using this loan program. And we have some people that we can refer you to have that conversation with you. Now, during that conversation, you've said, Ben, that you wanted to put 10% down, but perhaps that's not the best decision to make right now. So you're going to sit down with your preferred lender and you're going to look at, well, what is that rate, right? Our preferred lenders will always offer the best rate on the first appointment, right? Not negotiating them down later because you talk to 3 or 4 or 5 different lenders. They're gonna talk to you about a variety of loan programs, including potentially 0 down, VA, FHA, 3.5% down, maybe 3% down conventional. So they're going to talk about different programs and how that affects you financially as well. And then once you make that decision, you're going to get what I like to call is your golden ticket in our home showings. It's your pre-approval, right? It's your pre-approval letter and a pre-approved amount. You're going to know what we can spend, and you're going to know what you want to spend. And those 2 things may be very different, but many lenders we'll get you a fast over the phone pre-qual. That's not a pre-approval. We always want you to be pre-approved fully so that we can make sure to get you the best property at the best price when we walk through it.
What I love about this, Chris, is that you could have never done a buyer consult before. And you could have took your finger, you open up this book and you say, hey, first step is we got to secure financing. If you're not paying cash, the next step in the process is to decide which lender and which loan program that you're going to use. Having a written pre-approval letter is key in this market to get a competing offer accepted. Let's go through the 4 different things that we really need to happen at this step in the process. And you walk through all 4. You literally don't have to know anything. You just have to be able to read. Chris and I took the time to choose every word in these presentations for you to memorize, or for you literally to go and point at it and say, as you see, our preferred lenders always offer the best rate on the first appointment. You can literally be reading it. They aren't even going to feel that because your finger just directed their eyes down to the paper, not to you, and they could see those words. This is like paint by number. It allows all of us to say the right things and to say it in the most effective way. Like on the next slide, Chris, where we talk to them about some of the benefits that they have in working with our preferred partnerships and vendors.
Yeah, and here's what happens if we don't do that, Ben, especially in this one, perhaps even more so than the seller's experience. All we do is talk about the house. Like I've sat through the buyer consult where the agent only talks about what they're looking for, what they want, and then it kind of just ends. And buyers feel lost. They also question why they're going to commit to you and be loyal to you when you ask, when any agent will look for a house for them. But not every agent will walk them through step by step the buying process and inform them. So on page 8 of the guide, what we want them to realize is when you work with us, I have some good news. Every buyer that commits and is loyal to us as an agent, we open up our partnerships that we've worked years on building and spent a lot of money on creating for the only purpose of making homeownership easier. Why? Because I want you to be a homeowner. I want you to be building wealth through real estate. And so our partnerships that we're going to get you names and numbers for will be able to offer you loan programs with no origination fees, no lender fees, no underwriting fees, no loan processing fees, right? Up to $1,000 in closing cost credit, so you could put that towards your appraisal perhaps, and incredibly competitive interest rates. So you'll do yourself a favor when you reach out to them. And again, as long as you buy a home with us, we're able to offer you that partnership as well.
Let's talk about where this came from. I don't know if anybody on the call has ever had the experience of a buyer calling them and saying, hey, I thought I was going to be able to work with you, and unfortunately, my credit union says that in order to receive the discounts, I have to use one of their agents. Hey, unfortunately, in order to get the benefits from the relocation company, from the military, I got to use one of the agents that they choose. Hey, unfortunately, in order for me to get this discount here, I got to use this. Hey, I saw that Redfin was doing that. I saw that Zillow was doing that. And all these people are trying to steal our customers. Don't allow your customers to go somewhere where they can get stolen. It's why we at Place are building a moat around our customers through our offerings of mortgage, title, insurance, escrow. As we expand Place around the US, right, you'll have these benefits everywhere. And it's really important. One, we saved the average customer $5,000 last year when they went through our mortgage company. That's $5,000 more in commission that they're willing to pay you, or more that they're able to pay for a home or increase their offer because they don't have to give it away, or less they have to ask the seller in closing costs. This allows our clients to be more competitive if you take the time to run them through our partnered companies. That's it, Chris. You can keep going. Sorry.
So let's take the next step and talk about what happens next, right? You've talked to our lenders, you have a program picked out, you have your pre-approval letter in hand, you know that you are able to get the loan for that $400,000 house that we're going to be looking for. Now we have to find it. Now we have to find the right home. Now, there's a new approach to finding the perfect property. And smart home buyers choose a team like us to work for them in finding the perfect property. We can make sure you have access to the best homes before the competition. In fact, what my guarantee is you will know everything that any agent in town knows. And here's why. And then I'm going to take them through the 5 ways or 5 places to find a home. Now, again, going back to my philosophy of establishing value and creating doubt, what I found is most agents either let you search on your own or we'll just use MLS. But that's just one place to find a home. And it's the first place, right? Actively listed homes and open houses. Our technology allows you first access to all properties that are for sale by any brokerage or any agent in the area. We will automatically send you those new listings. You want them once a day, you got them once a day. You want them twice a day, you got them twice a day. We're going to set that based on how motivated you are to find the right house right now. But you will know about every active listing as it comes on if you choose to be notified.
If this page was designed for a couple of very specific reasons. One, to showcase our technology and how we're different. And you could, as Chris says, we could plant some seeds of doubt by simply saying, you ever looked on a website like Zillow only to go to see a home that you really love, only to find out that it was already sold? Or that you see a property on one website and it's not on another? It's because they don't update their data very often. Our websites are updated every 5 minutes, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So when a new property comes on the market, it's available. You'll be sent out properties every single day. All you have to do is hit the little heart and favorite it, and I'll know what your favorite properties are. I can look into it, make phone calls, gather information, or schedule home tours. But in addition, sometimes our clients buy different types of properties. And I want you to know that we're very versed in this, and we're here to help you. Whether you're buying a new construction home, a new home in a development, you drive by a property that's not for sale and you want us to call the sellers and see if they'd be willing to sell and take an offer. A foreclosure, you heard about a foreclosure, you saw a home that was run down, or you drove by a for sale by owner. We can help you with any of those things. All we ask is you send us the address, send us a text or an email, and we'll reach out right away and we'll get you the best possible deal. Now, why do we do that? Is because I showed buyers for 2 or 3 months and they said, yeah, thanks for everything. Actually, we went into this new home development and the person there said that they had to work with them and we really liked it, so we bought a house. Or, oh yeah, we did. We ended up buying a for sale by owner. I didn't know you could work with those. Or, hey, we wanted to buy a foreclosure. I didn't know you specialize in those. Get all the information out front in this page. You say, these are all the places you can find a home, and we're here to help you with all of them. We're experts, actually. We're here to do it.
And at that moment in time, I also help them realize that outside of the actively listed properties, they need me to help them negotiate probably more so in any one of those other situations than the actively listed property. And here's why: because most for sale by owners are for sale by owners because they're overpriced, right? An agent may not have listed it, or an owner is just, right, it's a make me move price. Hey, if someone comes in, knocks on the door and wants it at this price, I'll move. But the fact is too often I've seen buyers overpay for sale by owners that I wish they would have asked me to help them negotiate on. New construction, same thing, right? That builder has someone that works for them for the sole purpose of getting them the best possible price, and oftentimes upsell you on extras that really should have come standard anyway if you had someone negotiating on your behalf. So if you want to look at new construction, you like certain communities, please let me know. I'll make that call on your behalf to make sure you're walking in with someone negotiating on your side before you walk in. Off-market home, same thing, right? We have people on our team, right? Our agents are calling 100 to 150 people a day looking for potential sellers that are not yet on the market. So the minute we have gone through this consultation, you've committed to work with us, you're loyal to us, I'm loyal to you, I'll have my team making calls into neighborhoods, school districts, product types, right? Areas, streets specifically that you want to live in or on. And we'll be looking for off-market properties, especially in the market that we're in today. You need someone that is actively looking at all 5 of these to make sure that we find you the right home. Because remember, my first guarantee, it was find you the perfect house at the right price for you. Your agent has to do this for you. Are there any questions about any of these property types, or is one of them more attractive to you than another? And then you're going to find out who they are. Oh, yeah, I'll only buy a foreclosure. I want a foreclosure, right? And now we have to unpack, well, why do you want the foreclosure? Is it the perceived deal? Maybe they only want new construction, and that shows up today or at this moment in time because they're focused on it at this point in time in the presentation. So this is a good page to provide value, but also understand the buyer a little bit more as well.
I'd have these at your open houses or your consults or everywhere, because you could quickly refer to an open house and just say, just out of curiosity, has any other agent offered you access to their wood sell list? Well, no, what's a wood sell list? Well, it's a list of properties of people that own properties in the area that would sell if the right buyer came around, but they don't necessarily want to have their home on the market. And they're like, no, I've never heard of that. Well, we should get together and go through our buying experience and talk about some of these things like the wood sell list, off-market properties, new construction, foreclosures, and for sale by owners to help you find a home if you feel frustrated that you haven't been able to find the right home on your own. It just sets that doubt and creates opportunity that we can offer them that nobody else has talked about.
So we found a home. We found the right home, and it's time to write an offer. Now, unlike most agents who get super excited when their buyers want to write an offer, they throw together the offer and submit it. Understand, we're going to go through a process, right? When we sit down and decide to write an offer, we have a strategic process we go through, because my second part of the commitment is to help you get that home at the right price. So we're going to sit down and we're going to go through an overview of what that market looks like, right? I'm going to take you from a macro to a micro level. I'm going to look at the city. I'm going to look at the town. I'm going to look at that neighborhood. I might even look at that specific street. I'm going to look at the months of inventory. Like, how much inventory? What's the supply like? Is it trending up? Is it trending down? Where is it headed? I'm going to specifically talk to you a little bit about list price to sales price ratio for that neighborhood as well. Some of our neighborhoods, this is a really hot market, but some of them are still trading at 96% or 97% list price to sales price ratio. What does that mean? The average buyer is getting 3% off list price, right? There's a 3% off sale in that neighborhood potentially. Other neighborhoods, they're selling at 103, 104, 109% of list. So what I'm going to ask you not to do is get attached emotionally to the list price. It could be high, it could be low. That's what I'm there to help you walk through. Like, what is the right list price for that home? We're going to talk about days on market. How many days has that home been on the market? If the average days on market in that neighborhood is 12 and this home has been on for 46, well, that list price to sales price ratio may come into play. If the average days on market is 12 and this home has been on the market for 3, well, we might have a different conversation about the price of this home, depending on how motivated you are about this home at that moment in time. Now, how do we look at, go ahead, Ben.
No, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, how do we look at those homes? Well, we have a proprietary way that we build out our comps and pricing, and it's called our 5-5-5 strategy. We're going to look at 5 active properties. We're going to look at 5 pending properties, and we're going to look at 5 sold properties. And that's because this 5-5-5 strategy allows us to look at what happened in the market, what's going on in the market, and what do we believe will happen in the market. This 5-5-5 strategy is important for us to sit down on every home that we're going to write an offer for and decide really what is the value today of this home. And then, and only then, will we move to step 6 and start talking about negotiating price, negotiating terms, negotiating timelines with that seller. So you see, we're quite different when it comes to making an offer. We know you'll be excited, and honestly, I will be too. However, we're going to take a very pragmatic and strategic approach to making that offer with you.
What you'll notice in this guide is it's not so much of a presentation like the listing piece, right? It's really a conversational exercise, and you're going to take your Sharpie again, and you're going to go and say, all right, market overview. There's currently 1 month of inventory, right? Their homes are selling on average right now of 103% of asking. The average days on market in the area you're looking is 7 days. Right. And you're going to start painting that out in your buyer consult because you want them to be prepared when you get to the point of making an offer that they're going to be willing to make a strong offer. Now, Chris, one script that I've used in my career is simple. In my experience, Chris, we're going to run across 2 types of properties. One, a home that's been on the market for a long time, and for whatever reason, they've resisted sale. Probably they're a little bit overpriced or not in the best condition. And we're going to be able to negotiate down and potentially make offers under asking. 2, properties that just came on the market, they have a lot of activity and they're getting multiple offers. In those situations, most likely, in order to be competitive and get our offer accepted, we're going to have to make an offer over asking. And I'll be really clear which type of property we're looking at whenever we view a home.
Awesome. So I want to talk to you a little bit about why working with me is so important. The power of a team is greater than the power of one person. Moving your home sale through that contract to close, right? From the time we get into contract to that mission accomplished phase of handing you the keys, there are a minimum of about 180 individual tasks that need to happen. And that's a lot of details that no single agent can effectively manage. So along the way, you're going to be introduced and meet members of our team. These are professionals that we're going to work with collaboratively. We're going to work with them closely. Some of them will be behind the scenes. Some of them will be alongside of me. Some will be out in front of me. And each of them will be giving 100% attention to their area of expertise that is going to help us down this path of finding you and closing on your home. So who are those people? Right? We have a client concierge outside of myself as your lead agent. And this person is going to help us with many of those 180 different tasks. At times, if I can't be there and there's a home that came on the market and you need to see it at 2 and I'm in a meeting at 1:30, well, guess what? A showing assistant may be available to get you into that house. We have a transaction coordinator that's going to walk through the paperwork and make sure that you and I have dotted our I's and crossed our T's, and they may reach out along the way to get some paperwork signed or filing paperwork. We have the lender that we've talked about. We have a home inspector that we'll refer you to. We have escrow and title and attorney. You need a team. And I want you to have the confidence that I've put together the best team in the industry to make sure that none of those 180 tasks get dropped along the way. The power of a team is greater than the power of a single agent working on your behalf.
I think what you pointed out here, Chris, is really powerful. If you're taking advantage of the leverage model here at Place and you're working with a showing agent or one of your own admins, this is where you introduce those people so they know that they're not being handed off, that you work together as a team. Just like when I go to the doctor, somebody else takes my temperature, somebody else weighs me, right? Somebody else takes blood, the doctor meets with me. We all want to be paid like doctors and treated like doctors, which means we have to explain our role in the transaction, and this is your place to do that.
Yeah, this page will be presented differently depending on where you are in your business, your career, where you are on a team, what leverage you have immediately available, what leverage you're taking advantage of. And it is important at this moment in time to put some names and faces potentially to some of these roles. So when I present this, I'll say, we have a transaction coordinator, Pam. You'll love Pam. Like, doesn't matter what's going on in her life that day or yours, she's gonna be a beacon of happiness when she picks up the phone, right? You'll love her and you'll get to know her real well. You're gonna meet Mary, our showing assistant. Man, she knows this market. Honestly, don't tell her I said this, but probably better than me, right? So I'm gonna come up with these dialogues around making them want to meet other members of the team if they haven't already, and put a name and almost a virtual face to them about their personality. And those people on the team also know that they need to live up it and live into that personality, right? The showing assistant better know the market better than me. And Pam better be smiling on the phone and picking up and being happy. And that allows them to feel connected to a team and not feel handed off later. Now, just a few words of caution. Some of these actually are going to feel comical, and I promise every one of them is here because at some point in my 20-year career, I was surprised. So what we want to avoid is some surprises along the way. So this is what I call my buyer beware when buying a home. Number one, please don't change jobs. Don't become self-employed. Don't quit your job because you get upset over the next 3 days. If you're going to, let me know. We may have to put your home search on pause, right? Number two, don't buy a car. Don't buy a truck. Don't buy any large purchase like a vehicle. Do me a favor. Just wait 30 days. Number three, don't excessively use your credit cards, but don't cancel any credit cards either, right? That'll adversely affect your credit rating as well. And don't fall behind on payments. Number four, don't spend money you've set aside for your closing, right? You've done a phenomenal job at saving that $10,000. Just leave it there. Don't touch it. Like, let it burn a hole in your pocket. Like, just leave it. Number five, don't leave out debt or liabilities from your loan application. Whether you're excited about that debt, feel embarrassed about that debt, just make sure you have a very confidential and open conversation with the lender. Number six, the minute we find the house, I know what you'll wind up doing. You're going to hop onto websites and you're going to start looking for furniture. Just don't buy it yet. Don't put it on credit. Don't think I better buy it now because I'm closing. I want it delivered. Just take some time. Be patient there. Number seven, don't start inquiring a bunch of or getting a bunch of inquiries on your credit. In other words, you're going to walk in, you're going to think about the new TV you want in that awesome living room, and you're going to Best Buy, and you're going to buy a TV, and they're going to say, hey, we can save you $200 if you open up a credit card. And you think, well, that's great. I'll save $200. Don't. First, don't buy the TV. But second, more importantly, don't open up that credit card, right? It's an inquiry against your credit. It'll affect your credit. Number eight, don't make large deposits or withdrawals without checking with your loan officer. In other words, you have a family member that wants to give you a lot of money. Awesome. Get it in cash. Like, don't have a lot of money dropping into your bank account, and don't make large withdrawals out of those accounts that you've identified as your personal bank accounts or even business bank accounts. Number nine, don't change bank accounts, right? If Chase gets you really upset this week, don't move over to Bank America. Like, if just don't change your bank accounts over the next 30, 45 days. And it might go without saying, but if your kid comes to you tomorrow and he wants to buy a car, tell him he's going to have to wait too. Don't co-sign on any loans for anybody, family, friends, right? Just don't co-sign any loans. Anything else you'd say there, Ben?
No, I think that these are all warnings, and it's not that it can't happen, but it shouldn't happen without a conversation between us and the client or us and the loan officer. So if any of these 10 things become a necessity for you, just loop me in. We'll get our lender on the phone and we'll ask them the best way to do it. But here's the reality of the situation. Everything's changed since COVID. And because of that, they have this additional documentation requirements that they ask right before closing. Are you still employed? Can you show us the proof of it? Get us the next bank statements. That was never in existence prior. So some of these things used to slip by, but now it doesn't happen because of all the uncertainty in the world. There's additional layers of scrutiny, and we'd hate for them to miss out on the opportunity to buy their perfect home because they made something, a silly decision like buying a couch on credit.
Yeah, and it's happened. It's happened to clients of mine. It happened to a family member. And man, did I feel responsible because I hadn't gone through these 10 with them. So let's talk about just big picture. What can you expect to happen? The reason why we put this together for you is not knowing what to expect can be frustrating. The process of buying a home, I promise, would be a fun one for you. I promise it would be a good experience. And so I just want you to know up front, right? Step one, we're going to make an offer. Step two, we're going to go through negotiations. And this might take one day. It could take 2, 3, 4. Man, sometimes it takes longer than that. But just know I'm going to be by your side through that entire process. It's important that you're hiring an agent that you're confident that will be by your side during step two. Step three, we're going to high five, right? Yeah, have a glass of wine, offer accepted. But that's when the real work begins, at least for me. Step four is making sure that the loan process begins. The first thing you're going to do is I'm going to get a copy of that contract to your lender. You're going to call the lender, and you're going to, all that documentation that he said begin putting together, you're going to make sure he has now. In fact, there might be a third thing he wants, or a fifth thing he wants, or a seventh thing he wants. But the loan process is a long one. I'm going to be there by your side and helping you. If you have questions, reach out to me. You'll be able to reach out to our lender partner as well. Step five is inspections and appraisal. Now, this is where I see a lot of people just get nervous and emotional. I get it. You may have never gone through an inspection process, but I've been through hundreds of them. So we're going to walk you through that process. We're going to go through all the inspections that we believe you should have on that home. We're going to recommend some inspectors for you. You may even want to be talking to some of them now so that you're prepared and know which inspector you're going to hire. And then once that inspection comes back, we're going to go through it. We'll sit down, we'll go through it page by page. Why? Because we want to make sure that you're buying a good home. And that may open up negotiations again. It may not, depending on the market that we're in. Once it's inspected and once we've negotiated through inspections, the home is going to have to appraise if we're getting financing. And what does that mean? You're not just taking my word for the value of the home or the seller's word for the value of the home, or even your gut on the value of the home. We're getting a third-party independent appraisal, and they're going to come in and say, hey, based on what they're looking at in the market, this is the value of the home. And that could open up negotiations as well. So again, even my job as your negotiator isn't done yet. Step six, we're going to review title. We're going to make sure that the seller has the right to sell you the home. We're going to look at anything that might affect title. We're going to look for easements. We're going to look for utility companies that have the right to cross the property. We're going to look at making sure that surveys are in place if we need one. We're going to go through the escrow and loan doc review, making sure that the loan is exactly what you thought it was when you signed up for it. We're going to walk you through that process. We'll be there to answer questions along the way. Now we're getting closer, because step 7 is we're actually going to sign some documents, and we're gonna wait for the day for that loan to fund. Right, money is coming from your bank account to the attorney's office or to the title's office, depending on your state. Right, but the money's coming from your account, money's coming from the bank or the lender's account, and the documents are there, and we're going to sign them. Don't worry, we'll review those in advance. And step 8. Right, title records. It goes from the seller's name. Now that house, that deed is recorded. It's in your name. That's an exciting day. The transaction closes. Any questions about that 8-step process from the time that we make an offer to the time that it closes?
A comment for us is, if you're working with a client that's been through this a bunch of times or they have experience, then this takes 1 second. If you're working with somebody that's super timid or worried about the process and they're scared and they want to feel like you're going to be with them the entire time, right? You're going to spend extra time saying, each one of these steps, this is where I provide additional value, and I'm going to be standing beside you the entire time to make sure that all these 8 steps go perfectly. That's why you're deciding to work with us, is we're not just helping you find the actual home. The internet can do that. We're helping with this entire process.
Yeah, and if they've been through this before, a great question to ask is, in any one of these 8 steps, could your experience last time have been better? And that's because at that moment, I'm going to make a note here in my book that something went wrong at title. Something went wrong during their past inspection. Something fell through the cracks at the title, or transaction closing date, or they didn't feel represented during negotiation. So I'll ask that question with the goal of what? Creating the best experience they've ever had buying a home. So again, it could take a minute, it could take 10 minutes. First-time buyers, right? You may be talking at length about each one of these 8 as well.
Now, the next step is closing day. And this is simple. We gave you all the words to say. You can walk through what happens when you're all the way to the high 5 day, reviewing documents, closing appointments, funds, signing of documents, recording, congratulations, give you the keys, let's have a barbecue, eat pizza, unbox boxes, etc. Your point is that you're saying, we're going to be with you the entire time. Chris and I took the time to write the scripts for each one of these pieces for you to learn, memorize, and present if need be. Most likely, you're going to go through a lot of these pages pretty quickly, and you're going to get to the next page, Chris, which is really a reiteration of what we already talked about, which is the loyalty agreement. When you're done, you're going to sign this one and have them sign it, but they keep it. Remember, they keep the horizontal one. You're going to have them sign the exact copy of it, except for it's vertical in the workbook. You're going to keep that one. You're going to add any local documents that your MLS or your state requires, like the law of real estate agency, something like that. You're still going to use your MLS form for that piece. And then you're going to end reiterating your promise and asking for these commitments. And Chris, this is really the buyer consult. Everything past that, we're going to show homes and starting actually being in business with these people, right?
Yeah. And lastly, there's just that promise. We know you're going to be satisfied with our service. And if you aren't, we will make it right or we'll cancel the contract. We stand behind our ability to find you the right home at the right price.
We really hope that these tools make your ability to service customers and provide really the best possible experience even easier and better. As our technology evolves and our additional services and our savings, you're going to be invincible. You're going to be able to offer more than anybody else in your market at a higher quality and provide the best possible experience. And I hope you're seeing tons of value in all the hard work that everybody in our companies are doing behind the scenes to make these things pretty, to make the words right, to get them delivered, and to get you all trained. This is not a Ben and Chris work effort. This is the effort of hundreds of people behind the scenes at our tech companies and headquarters that are working for Place to support you all in the field, doing what Chris and I consider one of the most important jobs in our countries, which is delivering the dream of home ownership everywhere. That's that.
Awesome, guys. Anything else, Ben, that we should cover around the buyer consult or the buyer experience?
No, they should get a digital copy of all these shortly, and they should be able to walk through it and practice it and start memorizing it. And then they should get physical copies in the near future.
Awesome. All right, guys, we appreciate your commitment to using these. We appreciate your commitment to show up differently in the industry as consultants, both on the selling side and the buying side. As Ben said, these were built and based on literally thousands of successful buyer consults and thousands of successful listing consults, and have now been curated and edited and added to by many of you actually on the call. Like, this worked, or let's change this, or let's tweak this word, or phrase. And as we go, there'll be future versions of them as well, right? Because we continue to adapt to the markets that we're in. We continue to adapt to what buyers and sellers need and want. We're gonna continue to be consumer focused, and that's going to be important. I hope you see that from what we're putting out. We're a very, very consumer focused organization, company, and brand out to the public. And we want consumers to have a different experience with our agents across every single city. That continues to separate us. So appreciate all of our commitments to learning these. As Ben mentioned yesterday, we'll be doing some actual training videos for both the listing consult and the buyer consult over the next month. And then we'll get certification processes in place as well. So each of our agents and each of us can feel that we've mastered it, and we continue to master it and get certified as a buyer consultant and seller consultant.
All right, cool. Everybody. And we look forward to seeing you all face to face at some point soon.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.